clear.
A very warm good evening to all of you. Welcome to the 27th session of CENTA's webinar series for teachers. I hope all of you are keeping safe and staying healthy. In this session, we will explore the art of cracking a personal interview. We have with us Dr. Pooja Jain. A passionate educator and enthusiastic public speaker, Dr. Pooja is currently the head of English department at the Assam Valley School, Balipara. She is also the Round Square representative in charge of public speaking activities and lower school dramatics. Having attained a bachelor's degree in science, she followed her heart into master's in English literature and doctorate in English literature. She has worked in a personality development and grooming institute in Kanpur, Sherwood Inter College, Nainital, and Scindia School of Boys, Gwalior. Dr. Jain has attended council workshops on literature and language, ICSC and ISC. She has attended plethora of online webinars and pursued certifications and degree courses. To name a few, she is a career counseling from UGCLA GCC, diploma in school leadership from Asian College of Teachers, certificate in educational administration, management, and leadership, among many others. And I can see a list here, and it would take me another 10 minutes to read out the entire list. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Pooja. And before we begin the session, ma'am, I would like to inform all participants that they will receive a certificate for this webinar. So please do fill in the feedback form that will be shared with you at 5:50 p.m. Over to you, ma'am.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Simran. Um, and pleasure being amidst everybody this evening. The topic that we are going to discuss this evening for the next 45 minutes is something that each one of us has been facing throughout our lives. As a student, as an entrepreneur, as a teacher, as anybody who's trying to vie for a job or is trying to apply at any place, be it a college, be it a university, or be it a workplace. So, interview skills and how to crack a personal interview is something that I feel has always given me jitters. And trust me when I say this, that it's easy for me and it's easier for me to talk about how to crack a personal interview than to appear at one. So, and I'm sure, I mean, most of us feel the jitters. I can see I can read your comments in the comment box, and I would like to know from some of you, what is one apprehension or inhibition or anxiety that you face while appearing for an interview? So you could post it in the chat box, in the comment box, and my one eye is over there and the other is on my own screen, right? So repeat my question. What is one fear, one apprehension that you face while appearing for an interview or while preparing for an interview? I'm sure there must be plethora of questions raised in everybody's head, right? And I do not guarantee answers to all, but I'm sure we might feel a little better than before, right? So, moving ahead with what an interview primarily is, let me acquaint you all of the origin of the word interview. So, interview primarily comes from Latin and Middle French words meaning to see between or see each other. And the French word is entrevue. So, generally, an interview means a private meeting between people when questions are asked and answers are given. And there is a purpose, there is an objective behind an interview. And most certainly, the employer's purpose or objective is to find the best and the most suitable candidate or person for the job. And the employee's purpose and objective is to get selected for the job. Yes, so I can read some comments here. Confidence and language, and confidence and falling short of words, or nervousness. How can you be the best, or how can you be selected? How genuine do you sound? Absolutely. These are certain fears and apprehensions or inhibitions that I'm sure are universal. They are not particular to a person. The questions asked. So, all of this put together are the anxieties, is the nervousness of every individual, if I may say so. So, Primarily, when we talk about an interview, there are three things that every employer looks for, every organization looks for, and we are going to delve into them a little more deeply and understand what do they mean and what is the purpose behind those things. So skills, abilities, qualifications, interest, attitude, and motivation, and your personality trait. All of this put together, everything put together, is going to make one of you suitable and most applicable for the job, the most suitable candidate, right? So this is what we are going to explore today, and this is what we are going to delve into today. Interview process provides you with a face-to-face opportunity apart from what you have already written and mentioned in your CV or resume, right? So your CV or resume is a document that gives an overview and a concrete picture of you. But more than that, because it's not your CV or resume that is going to be working at the place or be at the college or the university, right? So it is more than the CV and the resume, it is you as a person. Whether you are the best person or not for a particular job, that is the message that you as a person are going to send across. Your personality, your interaction, your communication, your demeanor, your conduct, and your conversation with the interviewer is going to determine whether your candidature is the most appropriate and the most suitable or not. So that is what the purpose of the interview is, to find out how authentic you are, how genuine you are, and how true to what you have written you are. So there has to be a match between the CV, which is a document, and between you, who is a person. To at the onset and to continue with what I have just said, there is this a myth that needs to be broken, this fear that needs to be broken down, that an interview is more of an interrogation or investigation. It certainly is not. An interview is simply a communication process, a conversation process. It is most definitely not an interrogation. There is no Sherlock Holmes sitting on the other chair, or no Karamchand Jasu sitting on the other chair trying to investigate or interrogate about you. It is simply a conversation to delve a little deeper into your personality, to have an insight into your thought process, into your work ethics. So when applying for an interview or for a role, one of the most important things employers look for are your skills. How your skills, your competencies, your abilities can relate to the position that you are applying for. And knowing how to answer those questions about skills, competencies, personality, or character, they show the interviewer whether you have the expertise, experience, or knowledge to deliver the results that you are aspiring for or promising for, whether you will be landing into your dream job or not. So there is a whole lot of extensive list of certain things. There is a list of candidates, the list of skills, the list of competencies, qualifications. And in today's online scenario, there are a lot of candidates who are pursuing a lot of things. There is no dearth of qualifications. There is no dearth of degrees that any candidate can produce. But what every candidate probably cannot produce is how authentic you are, or apparently the competencies that a particular role is looking for, or a particular employer is looking for, or the skills, the abilities that a particular organization is looking for. So you may fit in into one and not fit into the other, depends on the set of skills, set of competencies, and set of abilities, along with your educational and professional qualifications. And to top it all and to add it to all is your personality and your trait and your character, the demeanor, the conduct with which you come across during the interview. There are various types of interviews. I'm not going to delve into the types of interviews right now, because what we are going to delve in the next few minutes is more of the types of questions, the competencies, the skills, and the abilities that a particular organization overall will be looking for. However, to let everybody know, the types of interview would be a formal interview, an informal interview, a sequential or a panel interview, a group interview, situational interview, and these days we know that we have telephonic interviews also and online interviews also, considering the scenario we all are in right now. The agenda for conducting, obviously, an interview is to know you as a person, know you as a professional, to know a little more about you, your career choices, your SWOT analysis, that is your strengths, your weakness, the opportunities that you have availed or you wish to avail, and the threats that you feel you're facing, your achievements, your experiences, the skills that you possess, the language skills that you possess, your hobbies and interests. So that is a very hidden and also a very clear agenda that every interviewer has in the mind. So, any interview, whether it lasts for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or even about 30 minutes, or 40 minutes, or even about an hour, it all boils down to you as a person and to you as a professional. There are certain skills that every employer, organization looks for, and those are, in short, assertive skills, collaborative or team player skills, adaptability and flexibility, creativity, and goal oriented. We're going to look at each of them, a little more of them, in a little more detail a little while later. Talking about skills and competencies in a little more detail, decisiveness, creativity and innovativeness, ability to manage conflicts and solve problems, communication, compliance, like I said, adaptability and flexibility, integrity and honesty, the influence that you might have on your surroundings, your independence and your self-reliance, your external awareness, your general awareness about your surroundings, your delegation, the ability to delegate duties, the ability to accept roles and responsibilities, the sensitivity and empathy towards others, your risk-taking nature, your venturesome nature, your resilience and tenacity, how you can delineate yourself, the personal and the professional selves, how you can differentiate and put your personal self apart from the professional self, your organizational ability and awareness, time management, ability to adapt into diverse situations and cultures and scenarios, and whether you are a leader or not. Because like I said, in today's scenario, in the 21st century, everybody looks for a leadership post or position or role. So whether you have those abilities and skills and competencies or not is what an organization or an employer is looking for. Now, the point is that why do interviewers ask about these skills, right? That is an important question to ponder upon. So most certainly to determine the suitability for the role that you're applying for and what they are looking for, to identify your strengths and weaknesses, to determine your employability and your stability, to determine whether you are a good fit for the organization and the role, and to know your instincts or your personality traits. So then there is no mismatch, but there is a mix and a match between you and the role. So I repeat, there is no mismatch, but there is a mix and a match between you and the organization. So that is why any organization or any employer looks for a set of certain skills, abilities, and competencies in every interviewee or every candidate who has applied for a certain role, certain post, a certain job. Now, what do employers look for in an interview? During the interview, that is a very important thing. So there is just one thing that apparently most employers look for, and that is your genuineness and your authenticity. Whatever that you have produced on that paper, in your CV, your resume, in that document, whether all that is exaggerated or it is true, genuine, and authentic. So that is most certainly the employers are looking for. These are some of the questions that employer looks for in an interview, and we are going to deal with those questions a little more clearly. So talking about yourself, talking about your strengths, your weaknesses. Why do you want to apply for this job? Why are you leaving your current job? How do you see yourself in the next 3 years, next 5 years is what's also comes up as a question. So, can you work under pressure? Is something that every company, every organization wants to look for. What can you do for the present, I mean, for the organization that you're applying at? So these are certain things that we need to research well on, and so that we're able to answer these questions a little more confidently. What the interviewer wants to know is your level of self awareness, your instincts, or the personality traits. That is how well you can connect your actions and behaviors to deliver successful results and outcomes, and how you come across naturally, how dedicated you are, if you're a team worker or not, if you're kind, sympathetic or not, whether you can drive a balance between being right and being kind, whether how approachable you come across. So, like I said earlier, also, your level of self awareness plus your personality traits and your characteristics put together will make you a suitable and appropriate candidate that every organization is looking for. There are certain top skills to mention in an interview. Most importantly, communication. Every employer looks for an effective communication. We are talking about 21st century skills, and communication can certainly not be left behind. So, whenever asked a question about communication, or through your answers, through your demeanor, whether it be verbal communication or non-verbal communication, you have to prove to the interviewer or the panel that you have effective and efficient communication skills to be able to deliver plausible results. Business acumen is what every employer or organization is looking for. Your ability to crack deals, whether you're a risk taking person or not, whether you can make decisions or not, whether you have the sharp wit or not to be able to crack a deal, or how plausible again you come across while dealing with people and dealing with deals, to say so. Are you a team worker or are you a solo player? So, again, like I said, in the 21st century skills, and in the 21st century that we are talking about, collaborative work and teamwork is what every organization is looking for. There are times that we can play solo. There are times that we can do what we want to do. But when it comes to delivering organizational results, we have to align ourselves to the organization. And that is what, through certain questions, every employer or every interviewer will try to gauge of you, whether you are a team worker, whether you can collaborate with the others, or you are a snooty snob who likes to be by himself or herself and doesn't like to gel well with other people, doesn't go with the others in order, and that hampers the organization's results. Adaptability, how flexible, how adaptable you are in delivering your results or throughout process, a particular process. Are you very rigid in your approach? Do you always say a no? Or you're adaptable and flexible and you're ready to accommodate, you're ready to acclimatize, and you're ready to adjust in the changing scenario, in the changing situations. Do you have problem solving skills? Are you a part of the problem or are you a part of the solution? Do you approach everything as a problem, or do you have a farsightedness or a vision to resolve the problem? So through questions, employers and interviewers will also seek and find out whether you possess problem solving skills or not. Do you have organizational abilities or not? Can you manage yourself? Can you organize yourself? Are you somebody who likes to live in a mess? Are you a disarrayed person, or are you a well thought out, well planned, well organized person? Because all of this really matters a lot if you're talking about an organization. You cannot stay away and apart from all of this. Leadership abilities. Do you have the ability to influence people? Do you have the ability to make an impact on people? Can you designate, can you delegate roles and responsibilities to people? Can you stand by your decisions, thereby exhibiting and displaying your leadership ability and quality? Positivity. Are you somebody who always looks at the glass half empty, or are you somebody who looks at the glass half full? Are you somebody who's going to create a positive ambience around you and in your surroundings? Or are you somebody from whom people would like to stay away? So, again, through the question answer process, and while you're answering about yourself, while you're talking about yourself, how do you come across as a positive person or as a cynical, negative person who is always a no, 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 no person? Your level of confidence can be easily gauged in the way you conduct yourself, right from the time that you enter the room till the time that you exit the room. How you sit, how you pose, how you conduct yourself, your demeanor, your facial expressions, your verbal expressions, your body language, all of that will speak volumes about your confidence. Through again question answer process and some case study during the interview, the employer will try to gauge how hardworking are you, how diligent are you. Do you follow just a 9 to 2 routine or a 8 to 5 routine, or are you ready to go that little bit of extra mile, an extra step ahead if need be, or if the situation arises? Are you a self motivated, excited, enthusiastic person? Or do you need a push all the time? Do you need a reminder all the time? So, all of that again will be gauged and assessed during the question answer process and during the interview process. So, we have to bear in mind that while we are answering, that we should have the ability to portray and exhibit ourselves that we are self motivated, driven, self driven, enthusiastic, and energetic. Also, these days, we know that in the changing times and changing scenario, how times are taking a turn, do we have the potential to work under pressure? Or do we lurch behind, or do we step back when it comes under working under deadlines? Do we follow deadlines? Whenever there is a pressure, do we hide behind the garb, or do we hide behind somebody? Do we shove away our work? Again, through some question, through some case study, the employer or the interviewer will try to assess and gauge whether do you have the ability or not to work under pressure. And in today's technological scenario and technological world, there is no way that we can evade and avoid IT skills. So IT skills is very important, whatever area you may be, whatever department you may be, whatever subject you may be applying for. But a basic knowledge of computer, and I must say that all the interviews that probably I have appeared for or I've conducted also for others, basic knowledge of computers and IT skills, online apps, online tools pertaining to your specific area or pertaining to your department is very, very important. So a knowledge of IT skills, again, shall be gauged and assessed during the interview process. Now, the question is how to prepare for an interview. Most certainly, the organization that you are going to apply for, you must know what organization you're applying for. Therefore, you must research the organization thoroughly and properly, because I have seen that most of the interviews they ask, do you know about the organization, the vision, the mission, the people on board, etc. So if we are blank and if we don't know about the organization, that speaks very poorly of us. We must know some questions. There are some very generic questions or specific questions or cliched questions that every employer, every interviewer asks. So we must practice and prepare those questions. And the good idea would be to have mock interviews with a family member or a friend or even in front of the mirror. Just stand in front of the mirror, play a double role, ask a question, answer a question, and see how confident you are, what your facial expressions are, and you will be able to practice the interview before the actual interview. Ease out your nerves, because anxiety, nervousness, doubts, and fear kill more dreams than anything else ever can. So the more nervous you are, it is going to exhibit during the interview. You most certainly will be anxious. There is no doubt. I will not say that I am not nervous right now, or you won't be nervous if when you're appearing for an interview. Most certainly you will be nervous. Most certainly you will be apprehensive. You will have qualms in your head. However, practice calmness. Ease out your stress. Polish your image. When I say polish your image, I mean to say your physical appearance, your demeanor, how you dress yourself, how you conduct yourself, what sort of clothes should you wear, how you're going to carry yourself inside the room. So all of that, your physical appearance is very, very important when you're appearing for an interview. And do not forget your basics. Right from the moment that you open the door to you enter the room to you exit the room, the way you greet, the way you conduct yourself, all of this matters a lot. Review your qualifications. I'm sure your CV is your own. You have prepared your CV. But again, before you enter, review the documents, review your CV, read your CV and resume again. There are certain things that you have written. How are you going to validate that? How are you going to justify that? So be prepared with all of that. Organize your documents, your certificates, whatever is asked of or required, and whenever it is asked, you should be able to produce them. Prepare a list of expected interview questions. Practice mock interviews, like I said, and be punctual. Rather, be 5 to 10 minutes earlier and not ever be late for an interview unless there is an emergency or unless obviously you are stuck up somewhere. Non-verbal communication also matters a lot because the moment you enter the interview room, you're not going to start talking immediately. You're going to settle down yourself. You're going to exchange glances. You're going to exchange greetings and pleasantries. So all of that, your eye contact, your body language, your smile on the face, how you walk into the room, and during the interview, how you conduct yourself, and then how you exit. All of this put together is nonverbal communication, gestures, and that also contributes to your interview. During the interview, make a good impression. Answer the right questions. When I say answer the right questions, I mean to say that there are certain questions that you have prepared. You have had mock interviews, you've practiced in front of the mirror, and few questions that you've researched here and there and found out and from previous experiences from the internet, most certainly. But what if there is another question that is asked, or most of the questions are not what you have prepared for? So this is what it means. Answer the right questions, which means to say, answer the questions that are being asked rather than the ones that you have prepared. Ask questions. So when you answer the questions and the interview is over, most of the employers and interviewers ask, do you have any questions for us? Try and not say, no, I'm all right. Do come up with at least one or two questions. Do come up with something at least so that even your nerves are eased out and you come across as a confident person. Get your tone right. So how you talk is what matters a lot. What you say most certainly are the answers, but how you deliver those answers, the tone, the pitch, the pace also add on a lot to your interview process. Your body language, be positive and smile is what really sums it up all. So these are certain things that you must know about yourself, your personal profile, your achievements, your education, your hobbies, your skills, abilities, competencies, and your work experience. So all of this put together makes a wholesome resume. So when you're putting in your qualifications nowadays, interviewers and organizations and employers are also looking for educational qualifications and plus professional qualifications. For example, just now when Simran said that I have pursued my bachelor's in science and master's in art, in literature, and even my doctorate in literature. That is my educational qualification or my B.Ed. So all of that is my educational qualification. But when she said that I have done and pursued career counseling from GCC UCLA, or I have pursued a diploma and certification in educational management and leadership and administration from Asian College of Teachers, that becomes my professional qualification. So when you're appearing for an interview, when you're preparing your resume, you must also keep in mind to bifurcate or to delineate between your educational qualification and your professional qualification. Your hobbies and interests to be separate from your skills and abilities or competencies. Your achievements to be separate from your talents. So all of this put together will make a wholesome resume, and all of this put together will make a wholesome, authentic, genuine candidate, and that is you. Now, these are some of the common questions that could be asked during an interview. Tell me about yourself. Very cliched. I keep on asking all the time, tell me about yourself, or I have been asked plethora of times, tell me about yourself. What are your biggest weaknesses, your greatest strengths? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Why should we hire you? Why are you leaving your present or current job? How did you learn about the opening? Why do you want to be in this job? And your biggest professional achievement so far. Describe your dream job. What is your leadership style? The last time you had a conflict with someone and how did you resolve it? These are all case studies. These are case interview questions. Why do you want to leave your current job? The toughest decision that you have had to make in the last 3 months or 6 months. How do you think other people would perceive you or describe you? What do you like to do outside of work? So this is a hobby question, an interest-based question. What questions do you have for me? So like I said, every employer will want to be asked a question or two. So I'm going to go back to my previous slide to be able to tell you that how some of these questions are personality-based questions and how some of these questions are skill-based questions or competency-based question or a hobby-based question. So tell me about yourself. Tell me, what do you think? This is going to be what sort of a question? If an interviewer wants to know about yourself. So it's going to be a personality-based question. In fact, it is an overview, an overall view of you. So this probably cannot be put into any category of a question. But what are your biggest strengths and weaknesses? This can be put into your personality-based question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? This comes into your vision question. How much do you know yourself? It's a reflective question. Why should we hire you? Again, it's a reflective question. This is going to assess your personality, your skill, and your competency, everything put together. How did you learn about the opening? This talks about whether you have done a good research about the organization or not. Why do you want this job? Again, are you aware of the job and the role or the position that you're applying for? Your biggest professional achievement. Again, professional ability, whether you fit into this job or not. So your biggest professional achievement, they want to see to be aligned to the present opening and the current job vacancy. Describe your dream job. Now, everybody has a utopian world that they want to live in, and they have a dream place and a dream house and a dream vacation and a dream job. So what is your dream job? So this will assess your ability of working under pressure or problem solving or decision making or your tenacity or your conflict managing ability. So the moment you said that a hunky-dory job, there is no hassle, everything is smooth and everything is good and glorious and wonderful and splendid. You go to your office at 8 in the morning and you come back home at 5 in the evening. And after that, no emails, no phone calls, no jig and no pick. So is that what your dream job is going to be? Then the employer says, thank you. There is another utopia waiting for you. What is your leadership style? It probes into your ability to be a leader or not. So there are various leadership styles. I'm not going to delve into that right now because that would be another session altogether. But whether do you know what leadership is all about, and whether or not do you know that there are various leadership styles, and are you aware of your particular or mixed leadership style or not? The last time you had a conflict with someone. So this is again going to assess your conflict management and problem solving skill. How did you handle that conflict? What were the steps that you followed? How did you go about it? Did you resolve it or did you leave it however it was? Were you nasty, unpleasant? What was the outcome and what was the consequence? How do you think other people should describe you? This is going to be other people's assessment and description or perception of you. So, this again talks about your ability to engage in a community or a society, your ability to come across as a person. So, if somebody says, if you say, and this is going to again reflect during the conversation. So, if you say that somebody, I am very confident, but people who are not used to confidence, they perceive me as arrogant. So here you have portrayed your confidence also, and you have spoken about people looking at you as being arrogant also. So when you say that you are hardworking and diligent and you can work under pressure, but people who are lazy, they call you workaholic. So again, you have portrayed and you have exhibited or you have said that you are diligent, you are persevering, you can work under pressure, you follow deadlines. But a lazy lout or somebody who's not used to following deadlines will perceive you as a workaholic. So, in this way of diplomatic answer, you have talked about your skills and strengths plus how other people perceive you and observe you or would describe you. Now, why do you want to leave your current job? There is one very basic rule that you may want to leave your current job for whatever reason. And if you speak the truth also, nobody is going to kill you or hang you till death for that, right? However, do not go about backchatting your previous organization or co-workers. Even if you're not happy in your current job and you want to leave it for a better growth or opportunity, or you feel there is a bias or there is a prejudice, or you have been ill treated, whichever way, you put it across very politely, very honestly, without, like I said, back chatting or talking ill of your present employer, organization, or co-workers, because that sets a bad impression and a bad tone on the interviewing panel. Now, what do you like to do outside of work? So, when you are answering this question, this talks about your hobbies, this talks about your interests, and that is what the employer wants to know. Whether or not do you have a personal life, a family life? Do you watch movies? Do you read books? Do you socialize with people, or are you a loner? You sit back and do nothing. You're just working, absolutely at the laptop and computer and on screen. So, this is again another assessing question or a gauging question for the employer to be able to know whether you are a fit or a misfit into their community and an organization. And that does not mean that you will not fit anywhere. Of course not. There is some place for you, some space for everyone. God has created some place, some space for each one of us. If not this, then that. If not that, then that. So you may be a misfit in one place, but most certainly there will be another place where you will properly fit into, where you will find like minded people. The toughest decision that you have made in the last 3 months or 6 months. So, this talks about your decision making ability. Whether you are a shirker or you are a worker, do you have the potential, the courage to stand up for a decision that you have taken or made, or you have supported a tough decision, or you've made a tough decision and you've stood by it? So, this talks about, like I said, your decision making ability. And what questions do you have? Always be ready to take questions and ask questions. Because if you say, I'm fine, there are no questions, either you've been happy and satisfied with everything, or the employer assesses and gauges that there is something that this chap is holding back onto, is not sharing, and how come. So, be it whatever, be it about the organization, be it about the work ethics, be it about the ambience, work culture, employers, the role that you have applied for, whatever be the question, but do ask a question of the employer. So there are these some interview skills, right, that some of them we must be aware of and should be aware of. So preparation, we must and we should be prepared for everything, even for a class that you go for, even a meeting that you go for, an interview that you go for, or a presentation that you have to make. Be prepared. Prepared practice is what I would suggest each one of you. Dress up very smartly. Don't be overdressed. You're not going for a wedding ceremony. Don't be underdressed. You're not going for a funeral ceremony either. So be appropriately dressed. Be it an Indian attire, be a Western formal attire, be formally dressed, and be appropriately dressed. For men, you know what you need to wear, a suit and a proper tie. For women, be it, like I said, an Indian attire or a Western attire. Makeup should be, I wouldn't say a big no, but very little or light makeup. I'm sorry, just give me a second. I think there was a power cut. I will continue to talk. So like I said, be it, I wouldn't say a no to the makeup, but be it, try and keep it a very little makeup, very light makeup, and no heavy jewelry. Competency questions. So we discussed some competency questions right now, and that is what I mean to say. Body language, questions about your CV or your application form. If you have questions to ask, what is your USP, your unique selling point? What makes you different from the other candidates? And some case study based questions or hypothetical questions. Supposing if this happens, or supposing if that happens, how would you react? How would you behave? What would your response be? And what is one unique thing about you? How do you stand away and apart from other candidates? Is a very, very important thing. So that becomes your USP, your unique selling point. So these are some of the case study based questions, personality based questions, competency and skill based questions, or hypothetical questions, or USP questions, your body language, your demeanor, your physical appearance, your dress, your practice, and your preparation that makes a wholesome, confident interview. There are some do's and don'ts of the interview that we must all follow. Do know exactly where the venue is. Reach there absolutely a little before time or well in advance. Dress up appropriately. Make good eye contact. Greet the interviewer pleasantly and with a smile. Do smile back and do write a thank you note within the 24 hours of an interview, whether you get selected or not. Do close the interview by telling that why do you want to appear for this job, and reinforce and reiterate your keen desire to be a part of the excellent organization or the eminent organization that you are appearing for. Some don'ts, absolutely some don'ts would be that don't answer cell phone calls or messages during an interview process, because those 15-20 minutes are yours and nothing should be more important than that interview process apart from that conversation. Don't smoke, no chewing gum, no tobacco. Don't be very soft spoken or don't be very loud either. The pace, the tone, and the pitch has to be a balanced one. Don't rush with your answers or don't be very slow with your answers. The interview has to be interactive, conversational, energetic, and interesting. Don't inquire too much about salaries and vacations and bonuses right away unless you are made the offer. Those should not be the questions that need to be asked right in the first face to face conversation. Don't say anything negative about your former organization, your colleagues, or your workers. That sets a very bad impression on the present interviewing panel. And don't let, like I said, don't chew gums or don't have anything in your mouth. So your physical appearance, your demeanor, and your conduct will decide a lot about your interview. And with this, I think, Simran, I am pretty well in time, giving about 10 to 15 minutes to the viewers to ask questions if they have any.
So I'm going to prompt you with the questions and you can answer them. I'll take it from the top. What are some of the elements that make a resume effective for a teacher, and how do I make my resume stand out from the rest?
Right, great. So, because I'm also a teacher myself, a teacher of English, so I think I can answer this question. And I have been updating my resume like almost every month, trying to add on to something and maybe take away something. So, an effective resume is you. You are the resume, actually. So, like I said, your educational qualifications, your professional qualifications, your achievements, your hobbies and interests. And apart from that, if there is something that you have done extraordinary, that is going to make out a standout resume. Also, do not cramp up your resume. Don't make it a very messy thing. Put a small picture, a black and white picture, or a small passport sized color picture on top right or top left, and that is how you can make your resume a little more effective, a pleasant smiling picture, right? And space it out. The document has to be well formatted on the Word document.
What are some of the questions that we can ask the interviewer during a school interview?
Right. So you could talk about your subject, you could talk about the work ethics, you could talk about your role. Be very clear with what you are supposed to take up as a role. So suppose I have applied for a role of an English teacher. Is there anything else and beyond just teaching English? For example, I work in a residential school, right? It's a boarding school. 24/7 is my work job, my criteria. So is it that I teach till 2 o'clock and then I shut myself inside my house? So those are certain clarities that you must have, and you could ask very politely a little more about the role, a little more about the profile. What is it that you want to, you could add on? Is there any expectation of the employer or the organization from the employee or from you in particular, considering your resume and your candidature? So those are the certain things that you could ask.
How to answer the question about identifying one's weaknesses so that it doesn't go against you in the interview?
Right. I mean, that is a very tricky thing. I think we all kind of fumble and falter in that because nobody wants to appear weak, right? Nobody wants to appear negative, especially during an interview process. So, like during my conversation, also, when I said that you have to say something which you are not very good at in a manner that it comes across as a weakness, but you're ready to work on it or you're already working on it. So, for example, I know that I am slightly impulsive at times, or I'm very talkative. I can go on and on and on for hours at a length, you know. But then nobody likes to listen to somebody for hours and hours and hours. So I wouldn't call it my weakness, but yeah, some people might just get annoyed with my talkative nature, right? So then if I have to say that I know I am very talkative, but I also know when to talk sense and when to keep shut. So you have said that you are talkative, but you also are aware and conscious of when not to talk and when to talk.
Sure. Thank you, ma'am. I'm just looking at the questions.
I think I can take, I do see a few questions. Shall I take
Uh,
them,
th-
Simran?
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll just. So there's a comment by Ranjan Gupta: teaching job do not need ties. So why? Sorry, those taking questions with. Oh, so why do we need? Because teaching job does not need a shirt and a tie. Why, while taking the interview, one must dress up like that?
So I don't agree to that much because even a teaching job, and I would break that myth that teaching is as much a professional job. And education world is a huge world. I mean, children, we are dealing with young children, we're dealing with young minds. If we are not well dressed and if we are not formally dressed, if we don't carry ourselves with grace and dignity, what impression are we going to leave on our young learners and young minds? So I feel very strongly as a teacher that we need to absolutely dress up spick and span and prim and proper be it in a sari, be it in formal trousers. I wear all sorts of formal dresses when I'm going for work. So there is just no way that I would say that men should not wear a shirt and a tie, be you a teacher or be anybody. I think we are getting probably a little carried away by the Indian style of early times, when teachers used to be, and that is the image that we have in mind, Wakala chashma and a khadi bag on side and a danda in hand. So I think that happens so much a little more in those village schools primarily, not in city schools or I must say corporate world to say so.
Mr. John wants to know how should I respond if during an interview the interviewer says that I'm sorry but you are overqualified for this position.
Trust me, Mr. John, I have heard that comment earlier for myself. I did go through that about a year ago, so I completely understand that and I empathize with you. But then it's all right. We have to understand and we have to accept that not everybody is going to take us in, and we shouldn't be disheartened or disappointed. Like I said, there has to be a mix and a match and not a mismatch. So if the employer doesn't want to take you, trust me, there will be thousands of reasons coming up. But if the employer wants to take you, every qualification will fall into place. Your conduct, demeanor, and character will fall into place.
Deepika ma'am wants to know how do we answer questions about personal life in an interview.
So I feel that we shouldn't talk too much about our personal lives in an interview. And that is why we need to keep a balance and we need to maintain that difference and delineation between personal life and professional life. However, what you need to come across as that whether or not can you juggle between your personal life and professional life. So when you're applying for a post of a leader, for example, or a high profile post, and you would be asked, who's there back in family, because the employer and the organization wants to know whether or not can you dedicate yourself towards this job or not. Will you be burnt out, because there is something that is called in corporate terms burnout. If you are overstressed or if you are overburdened or if you are pressurized, you tend to go cranky, and your mental health, your emotional health will suffer. So you have children back at home, you have dependents back at home, and then you are at a leadership position or a high profile position. So what you need to talk about your personal life in this context is whether or not can you balance it out. Do you have helpers at home? Is your family supportive enough to be able to understand that you have a workplace and you have a family life? There will be times when you will need to prioritize your personal life, maybe over your professional life and otherwise. So that is how you have to talk about your personal life, trying to express that you can juggle up and you can you can strike a balance between your personal and professional life. You don't need to go about melodramatic manner, the saga of your personal life. Nobody is interested in listening to that, trust me.
Sylvia ma'am wants to know can the skills that you shared in the session be used for an online interview as well?
Absolutely. Trust me. This is an online scenario. We are conducting a session online right now. So, all of this, because all of this talks about your personality traits, all of this talks about your competencies and skills. So, all of these skills, these are conversations actually we are having. An interview is just a conversation, online or offline. So, through your answers and through the conversations and these hypothetical questions and the case study questions, how you respond to them is going to determine whether you are the suitable candidate or not.
Prarthana ma'am wants to know how do we answer the question about tell me something about yourself?
Again, a cliched question, overrated, hyped question. But when you talk about yourself, take not more than a minute. You're very, very quickly sum up your 30 years or 35 years or 40 years of life in that 1 to 2 minutes. So, what you have to do is you have to come across, talk about your quickly family background, very quickly in 15 seconds about your educational and professional qualification, your achievements, and yourself as a person, because it has to be a combination and amalgamation of quite a few things put together in 2 minutes of you yourself. And smile and have a shine in your eyes and be confident and energetic, because you are talking about your favorite person and that is you.
How in an interview should I explain a large career gap?
Again, I have been through that. So don't worry. It's all right. Times can be tough on some of us, and it's okay. Authenticity, genuineness, and being honest is what really works very well. You're sometimes, we are rolling stones gathering no moss. So some employers want to know why have you been shifting places and positions and jobs, and some would want to know why have you taken such a big gap. And it's all right, you might have personal reasons, you might have some professional reasons, you might have emergencies back at home. So just share it that with the employer and or the interviewer, and just be honest about it.
How do we start a conversation about salary with the interviewer, and how do we demand for a certain pay during an interview?
So what happens is right at first go. So when the conversation starts, I mean when the process starts, there is got to be some process before a face-to-face conversation. So what happens is most of the people before either they will call you for a telephonic interview and then face-to-face interview. Through your CV resume, they will assess and gauge you, then a telephone call, and then a face-to-face interview. If you have any qualms, if you feel that you're being called for the face-to-face interview, then hold on unless and until and unless the interview is over. Trust me, every employer and organization will eventually ask you for what your expectations are, and then you decide upon your expectation, your monetary budget. You see your own permutation and combination. What is it that you're drawing at the moment, and how much are you ready and able to negotiate and reach up to a certain amount?
Hetal ma'am wants to know if there are any questions that make us nervous or confused during an interview. How do I deal with that?
So there could be case study based questions. There could be hypothetical questions that could be asked, which you may, a situation, a hypothetical situation that you may have never faced. And that might take you a little longer to think about. So you might get nervous, but you know what I will tell you? Do not show them your nervousness. All of us are nervous at some point or the other in life. But the moment we show that we are weak and we are nervous, people take an advantage of it. So keep the nervousness inside, but on the outside and on the onset, smile. Take a while. There is no hurry, there is no hush to it. Take a moment off. Tell the interviewer that you need about a minute to think about the question, this case study. It's a hypothetical question, and then gather your thoughts, compose yourself, and then answer.
Jayashree ma'am wants to know, as an interview, how do I assess the candidate's psychological aspects?
So there are no philosophers and psychologists sitting over there. Trust me on this. I am into an interview panel, being the head of the department myself. I've been conducting a lot of interviews online and in physical presence. I am not looking at a person's psychology. You know why? Because you can be in your best form for those 15 minutes and then you turn out to be a completely different person to work with. So, psychology is just people's mind. And some of us are so manipulative that we like to deal with people's mind and play with people's mind. So, don't worry about the psychology. Worry about being authentic, worry about being honest, and worry about being pleasant and positive, confident. That is the mantra.
JB International wants to know, how do we respond to technical questions to which answer accidentally slipped out of your mind during the interview.
Simran, could you repeat the question? I think I lost you for a minute, for a
Uh,
second.
so the question is, how do I respond to a technical question to which I do not know the answer to during an interview?
So then be honest. If there is, and but I'll tell you something. There shouldn't be such a case because they will ask you questions based on what resume and CV they have provided you. Now, for example, being the head of the department, if I'm interviewing a person for an English position or a role of an English teacher, why would I ask science and maths questions to that person? So I would not suggest, I mean, an interviewer also to ask questions out of the topic or out of the context. So it has to be based on the CV or the resume that you have provided. And like I said earlier, also, and in my presentation, also, an interview is just a face to face conversational process trying to know the candidate and the employer or the interviewer a little better.
Sure. Uh, Charan ma'am sir wants to know, can we mention the courses that we are currently pursuing in our CV?
Can we mention?
About the courses that we are currently
Of course,
pursuing in our
absolutely.
CV.
That is an added advantage. if you mention courses and qualifications that you are pursuing, because it's learning, lifelong learning. It just tells us that how adventurous you are, how a keen learner that you are, and that you never want to stop learning or moving ahead and moving on. So it's absolutely all right to mention the courses that you're pursuing, the qualifications that you're pursuing, and talk about them during your interview.
I think with that, we come to the end of the questions. Okay, so there's another question by Jahan Afreen. She wants to know how important is your dressing style in an interview?
Dressing is very important. Like I said, your physical appearance really matters. Be formally dressed. Your attire has to be formal, men and women. For women, like I said, not too much of a heavy makeup or jewelry, because you're not going for a wedding or a funeral ceremony. You're going for an interview where you want to be selected. You want to leave an impression, and a good impression at that. So dressing and your physical appearance really matters a lot.
Taruna ma'am wants to know, as an interviewer, how can we gauge any aspirant within a short period of time whether they are suitable for the position or not?
Uh, yeah, it is absolutely all right to gauge, because that is how the process is. And if some of us are not satisfied, then we conduct multiple interviews. We ask for demo classes or demo videos, and then the conversation process goes on. But there are some that we outright reject also, the interviewers, right? Because then you are either not suitable for the post or the position or the role, or your demeanor or your conduct or the way you have come across. So I have done this very recently, so I know how it kind of works around.
Ishika ma'am wants to know, as a maths teacher, is personality important in an interview?
By personality, we mean your demeanor for that matter. I mean, how tall or short you are, or how fair or dark you are, or if you have big eyes or small eyes, that does not matter. Or long hair or short hair, that does not matter. If that is physical appearance. But when I talk about personality, I mean, are you rude and arrogant with your looks? Are you frowning or are you smiling? See, just a frown or a smile makes such a difference in your personality, in your physical appearance and demeanor. And that is what we mean by personality. Are you a charming personality? Are you a talkative personality? Are you a person who somebody can be comfortable with? Or are you person people run away from? So that is what your personality should be. So personality really matters during an interview. And trust me, interviewers can gauge your personality.
Thank you, Dr. Pooja. I think we've come to the end of the questions for today's session. I would like to thank you for taking out the time and engaging our candidates with this interesting topic. I think all of us took valuable insights from how, and will take it forward when we appear for interviews in the future. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much,
Pleasure.
audience. Uh,
Thank you, Team Center, for the opportunity once again. It was lovely interacting with every one of you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, audience.
Bye bye.
The code
Pleasure.
of the webinar feedback form is 7658. Please do fill in the feedback form to get the certificate by tomorrow. I have posted the link of the same in the chat box. Thank you so much, ma'am. With that, we will close the session for today.
Bye bye.